The last stand. The smoke was thick. The ground was hot from the fires that still burned. Metal twisted in the distance. Bodies lay everywhere, some her own kind, some not. She moved her fingers slowly. Pain shot up her arm. Her side was bleeding. Her armor was cracked. She tried to stand, but her legs shook and gave out. She fell back to her knees, breathing hard. Her name was Kelara. She was a warrior of the Vakari, trained since childhood, strong and proud. But now, she was alone. Her squad was gone. They had fought to the last breath, covering her escape. But she never made it out. Enemy drones had circled back. She had taken down 3 of them before the 4th hit her with a blast. Now she was in the ruins of the old outpost. Broken walls, scattered weapons, silence. Or almost silence. She heard something. Soft steps, not mechanical, not Vakari. Her hand reached for her blade. It wasn't there. Gone in the blast. She dragged herself behind a fallen beam, hiding her body under burnt metal plates. Her heart beat faster. Every sound felt louder. Then she saw him, a human. He was crouching behind a wrecked drone, scanning the area. He had a torn uniform and a long cut across his cheek. His gun was lowered. He moved carefully, like he had done this before. Kelara froze. She had been taught that humans were dangerous. Liars, killers, tricksters. Her people had been at war with them for years. She gritted her teeth and prepared to attack if he got close. But then he did something strange. He didn't raise his gun. Instead, he whispered, "You're not alone." His voice was soft, calm, not like a soldier, more like a healer. Kelara stayed still. She didn't answer. He looked around again, then whispered louder, "I saw you fall. I know you're alive. I'm not here to hurt you." She still didn't move. He stepped closer, slowly. He placed his gun on the ground, then raised his hands to show he was unarmed. "You're bleeding," he said. "I can help." Kelara blinked. This didn't make sense. Why would a human help her? She didn't trust him. But she also knew she wouldn't last much longer on her own. Her vision blurred. Her body was shaking. Too much blood lost. Then, everything went dark. When she woke up, it was night. The stars were dim above the black clouds. A soft light flickered nearby. She was inside a half-buried escape pod. The metal walls were dented, but it was shelter. She felt something cool on her side. She looked down. Her wound was wrapped. Her head turned sharply. The human was sitting beside the small fire, watching her. "You passed out," he said. "You lost a lot of blood." She tried to sit up, but he gently stopped her. "Easy. You're safe here. For now." Kelara stared at him. Her lips were dry. "Why?" she asked, voice cracked. He didn't answer right away. Then he looked her in the eyes and said, "Because no one deserves to die alone." She didn't know what to say. For a long moment, neither spoke. Outside, the wind howled. Something metal crashed far away. The war was still going on. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Kelara." He nodded. "I'm Mason." A human name. Simple. Strong. She looked at the bandages again. They were tight. Clean. "You're a soldier?" she asked. He shook his head. "Not anymore. I came to find someone. Now I'm just trying to stay alive." Kelara didn't ask who he was looking for. She didn't care. Not yet. She leaned back against the wall. Her body was still weak, but something inside her had shifted. This man, Mason, had helped her. An enemy, but maybe not a monster. A strange silence grew between them. Not heavy, just quiet. Then Mason stood. His eyes scanned the darkness outside. "They'll come back," he said. "We need to move before sunrise." Kelara frowned. "I can't walk." He turned and gave a small smile. "Then I'll carry you." Outside, footsteps echoed in the ruins. Enemy scouts were searching again. Kalara reached for the small blade Mason had placed beside her. He saw her move and nodded. "If they find us," he said, "we fight together." And in that moment, something unspoken passed between them. Not trust, not yet, but something close, something like hope. Enemy in the shadows. The night air was cold. The fire had died. Silence returned to the ruins, but not peace. Kalara watched Mason move carefully through the broken wall of the escape pod. He had a small scanner in one hand and a short knife in the other. He wasn't a soldier, but he moved like someone who had seen too much war. Her side still hurt, but she could sit up now. She kept her eyes on him, trying to understand him. He was not like the humans she had fought. He didn't speak much, didn't boast, didn't look at her like she was some kind of alien monster. Instead, he looked at her like a person. That confused her. They were supposed to be enemies. "How long until they return?" she asked. He crouched near the door, watching the shadows. "Not long. They're sweeping the ruins section by section. They missed this pod last time. Next time, they won't." She looked down at the bandage on her side. His work, tight and clean. A Vicari healer couldn't have done better. "You said you were looking for someone," she said. "Who?" He didn't turn around. "My brother." She blinked. "He's on this planet." Was. His voice was flat. "He was with a peace team. They were trying to talk with your high command. 2 weeks ago, their ship was shot down. I came to find what's left." Kalara felt a sharp twist in her chest. Her people had attacked peace teams before. Some said they were spies. Others said it didn't matter. War didn't care about reasons. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. Mason looked back, surprised. "You're the first Vicari to say that." She lowered her eyes. "Not all Vicari want war, but they still fight. Just like your kind," she shot back. For a moment, there was only tension. Heavy, sharp. Then he nodded. "Fair enough." As the sun began to rise, the cold turned to damp heat. Mist rolled through the ruins. It made it hard to see, harder to hear, the perfect cover for scouts. Mason returned to her side. "We can't stay here. They'll search this area next. I told you, I can't walk." He took out something from his pack, a thin metal bar with soft glowing lights. "This is a support brace, old tech, but it'll help you move. Not fast, but enough." Kalara stared at him. "Why do you keep helping me?" He looked at her for a long time. "I don't know. Maybe because I'm tired of watching people die." She took the brace slowly. Her pride burned. Vicari warriors didn't take help, but this wasn't a battlefield anymore. This was survival. With effort, she stood. Pain shot through her side, but she didn't fall. Mason smiled slightly. "Not bad. Don't mock me." Never. They left the pod together, moving through the rubble and ash. Every step was slow, quiet, careful. As they walked, Kalara noticed something strange. The ruins were not silent. There were whispers, soft, distant, not human, not Vicari. She stopped. "Do you hear that?" Mason paused, listened. "Yes, I've been hearing them since last night." "It's not the scouts." "No, something else." They moved faster now, using the mist as cover. Ahead was a broken tower, half collapsed, but still standing. Inside, they could rest, hide, and plan their next move. They reached the tower just before midday. Inside the tower, it was dark and cold. Walls cracked. Old banners of the First War hung in torn pieces. Strange symbols were drawn on the walls. Not human, not Vicari. Mason lit a small lamp and placed it between them. Kalara sat against a wall, breathing hard. The brace had helped, but her energy was low. He handed her a ration bar. She sniffed it. "What is this?" "Human food. Not great, but better than nothing." She bit it. Chewy, salty. but not awful. "Do you trust me now?" he asked suddenly. She looked at him. "No, but I don't think you'll kill me." Small progress. She leaned back. "What if I told you your brother might be dead?" "I know it," he said, "but I have to look anyway." "Why?" He looked at the flame. "Because if he's alive, I have to bring him home. And if he's not, I have to know." Kaylura was silent for a moment. Then she said, "I had a sister. She died 2 cycles ago. Human bomb in a market." "I'm sorry." "You're the first human to say that." They looked at each other again. Something unspoken passed between them. Not trust. Not yet. But understanding. That night, the whispers returned. Kaylura woke up to find the lamp flickering. Mason was gone. She stood quickly, grabbing the knife he left for her. Outside the tower, the mist was thicker. Shapes moved in the fog. Not scouts. Not drones. She followed the trail of footprints. Her side ached. Her heart raced. Then she found him. Mason stood near a crater, looking down. Kaylura joined him and looked too. There were bones. Not human. Not Vicari. Something else. "What is this place?" she asked. Mason whispered. This was a testing ground. Before the war. Secret weapons, failed experiments, things they never talked about. The whispers grew louder. They turned around. A shape moved in the mist. Tall. Thin. Glowing eyes. Mason raised his knife. "Run," he said. But Kaylura shook her head. "No, we fight together." And just like that, the shadows attacked bonds through fire. The shadow moved fast. Kaylura didn't have time to think. Her body reacted on instinct. She pushed Mason down just as a long black claw sliced the air above his head. They rolled behind a broken wall. The creature let out a deep, hollow sound. It wasn't a scream. It was something colder, something that made her skin crawl. Mason gripped his knife tightly. Kaylura raised her blade, her breathing sharp and uneven. "What is that thing?" she whispered. "Not human. Not Vicari," Mason said. "Something left behind." The creature's glowing eyes scanned the mist. It moved on 4 long limbs, its body thin like bones wrapped in burnt cloth. Its face had no mouth, only a mask that seemed to breathe. "We can't outrun it," Kaylura said. "You go. I'll hold it." "No," Mason replied. "We fight together." She stared at him. Part of her wanted to argue. But part of her, the part that had stopped seeing him as the enemy, knew he meant it. He wasn't leaving her behind. Not now. They moved through the ruins slowly, staying low, using the broken walls as cover. The creature followed, never rushing, always watching. It seemed to enjoy the chase. Kaylura felt her strength slipping. The brace helped her walk, but her wound throbbed with every step. Mason noticed. "Lean on me," he said. She hesitated. "We don't have time to argue," he added. So she did. They moved as one now, 2 enemies in the past, 2 survivors in the present. They reached the lower levels of the tower. A fire had destroyed most of it during the early days of the war. Ash covered the floor. Half-burnt metal beams hung from the ceiling. Mason spotted an old fuel cell buried under rubble. "We can use that," he said. "It's unstable. If the creature comes close, we blow it." Kaylura looked at him. "Are you always this calm when facing death?" He gave a tired smile. "Only when I have company." Together, they set the trap. Mason pulled wires. Kaylura used pieces of her armor to shape the blast. It wasn't much, but it could work. The creature stepped into the fire-lit space. Kaylura stood tall, holding her blade. Mason waited by the fuel cell, his hand over the trigger. The creature paused. Then it charged. Mason yelled, "Now!" The explosion was sharp and bright. The blast threw them backward. When the smoke cleared, the creature was gone. Only black pieces remained, scattered in the ash. They lay on the floor, coughing. Kaylura turned to him. "Are you alive?" Barely. She smiled for the first time. So did he. They found shelter inside an old control room. The walls still held broken screens and rusted chairs. Kalara sat near a cracked panel. Mason wrapped a new bandage around her side. His hands were careful, respectful. "You've done this before," she said. "Too many times. For soldiers. For people who needed help. Even some Vicari, once." She blinked. "Why?" "Because pain is the same, no matter what side you're on." She looked at him. No words, just a quiet truth between them. As night returned, they shared a small meal. Kalara leaned against the wall, tired but calm. Mason sat across from her, checking his gear. "You could have left me," she said. "I didn't want to. I wouldn't have done the same, not before." "What about now?" She thought for a moment, then answered softly, "I don't know." He nodded. Honest answer. Later, as they tried to rest, Kalara asked, "Do you think your brother is still alive?" Mason looked up at the broken ceiling. Stars blinked above. "I hope so. He always believed people could change, even enemies, even Vicari." "You believe that too." "I'm trying." She looked away. "We've done terrible things." "So have we." Silence again. Then Kalara whispered, "Do you think we're monsters?" "No, just broken people trying to survive." The fire burned low. Kalara's eyes began to close, but just before sleep took her, she felt something strange. Peace. Not safety, but peace, and it had been a long time since she felt that. At dawn, Mason shook her awake. "We have to move. Scouts are nearby." Kalara stood slowly. Her wound still hurt, but her body felt stronger. Maybe it was the rest. Maybe it was something else. They left the control room and headed into the lower tunnels. The air was thick, old dust and broken lights. "Do you know where we're going?" Kalara asked. "Yes. There's a comms post deep underground. If it still works, we can send a signal." "To who?" "Anyone still listening." As they walked, Kalara asked, "Do humans always talk this much?" "Only when we're scared," Mason replied. "You don't sound scared." "I am." She looked at him. So was she. But neither said it again. They reached the entrance to the comms post. The door was sealed. Mason worked on the panel. "Give me a minute." Kalara watched the tunnels behind them. Shadows moved again, but not the same as before. This time, it was scouts. Vicari scouts. Her own kind. They had come back, but she wasn't sure if they were friends or not. "Hurry," she whispered. The panel sparked. The door opened. Mason stepped through. Kalara hesitated. Her past was behind her, but maybe her future was just ahead. She followed him into the dark, the unseen enemy. The air inside the tunnel was thick, not just with dust and metal, but with something else, something old, something that didn't want to be disturbed. Kalara stepped carefully behind Mason as they moved deeper into the underground facility. Their footsteps echoed down the narrow corridor. Pipes lined the walls. Flickering lights hummed above. Many had gone dark. Wires hung like dead vines. "Are you sure this is safe?" she whispered. "Not even a little," Mason replied without looking back. The door had closed behind them, sealed shut with a soft hiss. No way out unless they found another exit, or died. Kalara hated being underground. Her people lived in wide open skies, not in dead tunnels built by forgotten hands. Mason's voice pulled her back. "This place was part of the early alliance," he said, "back when humans and Vicari still tried to work together." She looked at the cracked walls. "Looks like it didn't work." No, it didn't. They reached a control room at the end of the tunnel. The glass windows were broken. Shattered screens glowed faint blue. Dust covered everything. But the main console still had power. "We can send a signal from here," Mason said, "if we're lucky." Kaylura watched him work. His fingers moved fast, typing commands, bypassing locks. He didn't speak much while he worked. She could see the tension in his shoulders, the weight of everything pressing down. She sat on a cold metal bench. Her side ached again. She checked the wound. Red, swollen, but not bleeding. Mason noticed. "You okay?" "I'll live." "Good. I don't want to carry you again." She raised an eyebrow. "You couldn't." He grinned. "Probably not." Then something changed. The air got colder. The lights flickered harder. A low sound echoed down the tunnel. Not a voice. Not metal. A hum. A whispering hum that came from nowhere and everywhere. Kaylura stood. "Did you hear that?" Mason looked up. "Yeah." They both froze. Then the screen in front of him blinked. A face appeared. But it wasn't human. And it wasn't Vekari. The face had no skin, no eyes, just a smooth white surface. It looked like a mask made of bone and light. "This is not part of the system," Mason said slowly. The screen crackled. Then a voice came through. Not loud, not harsh, just quiet, steady. "You should not be here." Kaylura stepped closer. "Who is this?" No answer. Just static. And then, images. Fast. Flashing. A lab. Screams. Experiments. Vekari and human bodies, strapped to tables. Wires in their heads. Then, darkness. Kaylura grabbed the table, her knees shaking. "What was that?" she whispered. Mason's voice was low. "Memories. This place. They were trying to make something." "What?" "A weapon." The whispers grew louder in the walls. Kaylura turned and saw something in the reflection of the glass. A figure. She spun around. Nothing there. "We need to leave," she said. "Not yet. I need 2 more minutes." "We don't have 2 minutes." Her hands shook. Then she saw something worse. On the far wall, someone had written words in dark red. "We were wrong to build it." Kaylura's breath caught in her throat. "Mason." He looked up, saw the writing. His face went pale. "They didn't build a weapon," he said. "They built a mind. One that remembers. One that doesn't forget." "What do you mean?" "This station is alive." The door behind them slammed shut. The lights died. Pure black. Then, a soft blue glow. Kaylura's eyes adjusted. A figure stood in the middle of the room. Tall. Featureless. White light for a face. It didn't move. Mason whispered, "Don't blink. Don't move." Kaylura's heart pounded. "What is it?" she asked. "A memory. A warning. I think it shows your fear." "How do you know?" "Because I saw my brother just now." She looked at him. He was shaking. "He stood right there," Mason said, pointing. "He asked me why I let him die." Kaylura stepped back. "This isn't real." "No, but the fear is." The figure flickered, then split. Now there were 2. One looked like Kaylura's sister, the one who had died in the market. Eyes open, mouth open. She took a step forward. Kaylura backed into the console. "You're not real," she whispered. "You're not." "You left me," the figure said in her sister's voice. "You let me die." Kaylura fell to her knees. "Stop it." Mason yelled at the memory. "Leave her alone." The lights flared. Then the figures vanished. Just gone. Kaylura gasped. Mason ran to her side, helped her sit up. "It's not you," he said. "It's this place. It wants to break us." She looked at him, tears in her eyes. "I saw her. She blamed me. So did mine. But they're gone. This isn't them." "Then what is it?" "The unseen enemy. The one that feeds on guilt, on pain." The console beeped. Mason turned. Signal sent. A ship may come, maybe. Kaylura stood slowly. Her legs were weak, but she stood. Mason looked at her. You okay?" "No," she said, "but I'm still here." They looked at each other, and for a second, neither was alone. They found a side exit, broken but open. As they walked out into the mist, Kaylura whispered, "Mason." He looked at her. "Thank you for reminding me who I am." He didn't smile. He just nodded. "We fight this together," he said. "Yes," she replied. "Together." Behind them, the station lights died one by one. And somewhere deep inside the dark halls, the whispers continued. Watching. Waiting falls hope. The wind had changed. Kaylura could feel it against her skin, a warmer breeze, carrying dust, smoke, and something else. Mason noticed it too. He stood at the edge of a ruined balcony, his eyes scanning the horizon. Clouds shifted above them. Sunlight broke through for the first time in days. And then they saw it. A ship, faint in the sky at first, then clearer. Sleek, fast, moving low. Not enemy, not drone. This was a rescue craft. Kaylura's heart jumped. She didn't move, didn't blink. It felt unreal. Mason raised his hand to shade his eyes. "It's real. That's a signal ship, maybe from the Alliance outpost on the far ridge." "They got your message," she whispered. "Maybe." They watched the ship slow and circle. It released a flare. Red smoke drifted down near the base of the mountain. A signal to gather there. Mason looked at Kaylura. "We have to move. Now." They walked through scorched fields and broken stone. Kaylura moved better now. Her side still hurt, but the pain had faded to a dull ache. Mason kept the pace slow, steady, always checking the scanner, always alert. "Do you think it's really a rescue?" Kaylura asked. "It's a chance," Mason replied. "We can't ignore it." She nodded, but a knot formed in her chest. Something felt wrong. They reached the base of the mountain after an hour. The land was quiet, too quiet. No drones, no scouts, no wind, just silence. And then, voices. Mason stopped. Kaylura crouched beside him behind a low wall of rusted crates. The rescue team had landed. The ship's side door was open. A dozen figures stood around it, armored, armed. But Kaylura didn't recognize the armor. Then her blood ran cold. She did recognize one face. Commander Turax, Vicari High Command. He was supposed to be dead. The last time she saw him, he had ordered a retreat, leaving her squad behind. Leaving her behind. And now he stood beside a tall human officer, smiling. Mason saw the look on her face. "What is it?" "He's Vicari Command," she whispered. "But he betrayed us. He left us to die." Mason's voice lowered. "Do you trust him?" "Never." They waited and listened. More soldiers came out of the ship, bringing equipment. Scanners, bindings. This wasn't a rescue. This was a capture mission. Kaylura gritted her teeth. "They're not here to save anyone." "No," Mason agreed. "They're here to clean up loose ends." Kaylura's heart pounded. "They'll kill you. And probably you too, unless we give them what they want." Mason turned toward her. "And what is that?" "The truth. Everything we saw. Everything we survived. They want it buried." Mason nodded. "Then we don't let them." Before they could move, a voice called out, "Kaylura of the Vicari, step forward." They froze. Her name echoed across the broken land. She stepped out before Mason could stop her. Turax smiled as she approached. "You survived," he said calmly. "You left me," she replied. "You were part of the plan. We needed someone to slow the enemy while we secured the ship." Her hands clenched. "You lied. And yet here you are." The human officer beside Turax spoke next. "We picked up a signal from this area. We traced it to your old station logs. You've seen what you shouldn't have." "And you're going to silence me?" Kaylura asked. "No," Turax said. "We're going to bring you home. Quietly, respectfully. But you must come alone." Kalara looked at Mason behind the wall, then back at Tyrax. What about the human? Tyrax smiled. He doesn't belong here. He saved my life. So you owe him a kind death. Kalara didn't move. She stared at the man who once led her. And then she said the words that changed everything. I'm not going with you. Tyrax frowned. What did you say? I'm not yours anymore. She turned and walked back toward Mason. The soldiers raised their weapons, but Tyrax held up a hand. Let her go, he said. We'll deal with them our way. Kalara and Mason ran through the ruins again. Bullets hit the stone around them. Explosions echoed behind. The rescue ship lifted off, scanning with searchlights. They ducked into a tunnel, breathless. Mason leaned against the wall, bleeding from a small cut on his arm. You didn't have to do that, he said. Yes, I did, she replied. You could have gone home. That place is not my home anymore. He looked at her, really looked at her, not as a warrior, not as an alien, but as someone standing beside him. A person. Thank you, he said. Kalara touched the wall behind her. They'll keep hunting us. Then we keep moving. Where? He shrugged. Somewhere they won't find us. Is that place real? I don't know. She smiled. Then let's find it together. Night came fast. They built a small fire deep in a cave near the edge of the mountain. The stars above were clearer than ever. The wind outside was cold, but the fire warmed their hands. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. But after a long silence, Kalara spoke. When I joined the Vakari army, I believed in honor, in pride, in fighting for my people. What do you believe in now? I believe in those who stay, who don't leave others behind. Mason nodded. Then we believe in the same thing. Far away, the rescue ship flew back into the clouds. Its mission had failed. But somewhere deep inside the command logs, a new signal had gone out, sent by Mason before they fled. Not just a rescue request, but the full data logs. The truth about the experiments. The truth about what happened underground. Someone somewhere would receive it, and someone would listen. Back in the cave, Kalara sat close to the fire. Mason lay nearby, resting. She looked at him, then whispered into the night. You saved me. He didn't answer. He was asleep. But she knew he heard her, because his hand moved toward hers. And in the quiet space between them, there was no war. No lies. Only peace. Even if just for one night. Together we stand. The cave was silent, but their hearts were not. Kalara sat near the dying fire, sharpening her blade. Her movements were slow, steady. Each scrape of metal against stone reminded her that time was running out. Mason was awake now. He sat across from her, wrapping his arm with fresh cloth. The cut was healing, but his body showed signs of exhaustion. Bruises, dust, tired eyes. Still, he hadn't given up. And neither had she. They'll come again, Kalara said softly. Mason nodded. They always do. They didn't speak for a while. The silence between them wasn't empty. It was full of thought, memory, and something unspoken, something stronger than fear. Kalara looked toward the cave entrance. The stars were fading. Dawn was near. We can't keep running, she said. No, Mason agreed. We can't. They climbed higher into the mountain. Each step was slow, painful. Her side still burned from the old wound. Mason moved with a limp now, but his spirit had not dimmed. They reached an abandoned lookout post. It had no roof, no walls, just a rusted antenna and broken crates. But it had a wide view of the valley below. And in the distance, the sky was no longer empty. Ships. Not just one. Multiple. Small dropships cutting through the clouds, moving fast. Kalara narrowed her eyes. Command is coming. For us, Mason said. She looked at him. We can't stop all of them. Maybe not, he said, but we can make them listen. They began setting traps around the lookout. Old tech from Mason's pack, leftover mines, and sharp metal pieces turned into spears and blades. Kalara used her armor plates to build a signal booster. She connected it to the antenna. "What are you doing?" Mason asked. "Sending one final message," she said, "to anyone who might be watching." Mason smiled faintly. "Still trying to save the world?" "No," she said, "just trying to stop the wrong people from owning it." They worked in silence, side by side. Every movement had purpose. Every second mattered. And when the sun finally rose, it cast golden light across the mountain. Below them, the first dropship landed. Soldiers stepped out, human and Vicari. Together, armed, ready. Kalara took her place beside Mason. He looked at her. "If we die today." "We won't," she said. "But if we do, I'm glad it's with you." Her voice was quiet. "I was ready to die alone. I'm not anymore." They touched hands, just for a second. Then the ground shook. The battle had begun. The first wave came fast, a team of soldiers moving uphill, weapons drawn. Kalara threw a blade. Mason triggered a mine. Explosions tore through the rocks. Dust rose. Screams followed. The soldiers fell back. But more came. Kalara moved like fire, her blade flashing. She fought with everything she had, pain forgotten. Each strike was precise, deadly. Mason covered her from above, using an old rifle he found. He had only a few shots left, but each one counted. The enemy regrouped, moving to flank them. Mason shouted, "Left side." Kalara turned just in time, cutting down 2 soldiers trying to sneak past. Then, a sharp sound. A stunned pulse hit her shoulder. She fell to one knee. Mason ran to her, grabbed her arm, pulled her behind cover. Her vision blurred. "Go," she said. "Finish the message. Not without you. Don't argue now." He smiled. "Then don't get shot again." While she rested, Mason climbed to the antenna. He opened the comms panel. Wires sparked. He connected the drive with the data. Everything from the lab. Everything they had seen. Everything they knew. He hit transmit. A light blinked. The signal went out. Below, the enemy heard it. Commander Turak stepped out of the second ship. He wore a black coat now, no symbols. His eyes were cold. "They're broadcasting," one of the officers said. "Shut it down," Turak's ordered. "Kill them both." Another wave came. Kalara was back on her feet. Mason handed her a second blade. "You ready?" "Always." They fought back to back. 2 warriors. Not human. Not Vicari. Just people. Just survivors. A grenade exploded near them. The blast threw Mason to the ground, blood on his forehead. Kalara screamed his name. She rushed to him, pulled him back to safety. His eyes opened barely. "I'm still here," he said weakly. "Don't you dare leave now." "Wasn't planning to." Then, a new sound. A second signal. Not from them. From the sky. A ship appeared. Larger. Older. Not command. A broadcast echoed over every speaker. "This is Alliance Ship Veritas. We receive your message. Ceasefire. Now." Kalara looked up. Hope returned. Commander Turak shouted orders, but his men hesitated. The truth was out. Too late to silence. Too late to erase. The Alliance ship landed beside the mountain. Medics ran toward Mason and Kalara. But she stood tall. "Help him first," she said. They took him gently, quickly. Kalara sat down beside the old antenna. Dust on her face, blood on her hands, but her eyes, clear. Hours later, in a quiet medical bay, Mason woke up. Kalara sat beside him, her hand on his. "We made it," he whispered. "Yes," she said. He smiled. "Together. You're not alone." Mason woke to the sound of soft humming. Not engines. Not weapons. Something gentle. Someone humming a tune. Old, maybe ancient. His eyes opened slowly. Soft light filled the room. White walls, smooth floor, steady beeping from a small monitor beside his bed. A woman sat near him, back turned. When he moved slightly, she stopped humming and looked over her shoulder. Kaylura. Her armor was gone. She wore a light gray robe, simple and clean. Her hair was tied back. No weapons, no blades. Just her. She smiled. You're awake. Mason blinked slowly. How long was I out? 3 days. He tried to sit, but pain shot through his chest. She gently pushed him back. You took a blast straight to the side. Fractured 2 ribs. The medics say you were lucky. He breathed out slowly. Feels like it. Kaylura handed him a small cup of water. He drank slowly. Where are we? He asked. Alliance medical ship, high orbit. They pulled us out after the broadcast. Mason nodded. The signal. It worked. Yes, she said. Everyone knows now. What they did. What they were hiding. And Tarax. Gone. Ran before they could arrest him. No one knows where. Mason looked down at his hands. But the truth is out. Yes. Thanks to you. He turned to her. Not just me. You stood beside me. Kaylura's eyes softened. I told you before. We fight together. Later that day, Kaylura walked through the halls of the ship. Every step echoed. Clean, quiet, bright. Her mind felt strange in the silence. She wasn't used to peace. Her body didn't wear armor anymore, but her heart still held the weight of war. Officers passed her in the hallway. Some nodded in respect. Others stared in silence. She was no longer just a soldier. She was something else now. A symbol. A few levels below, a council had gathered. Human and Vicari leaders sat at a round table. Alliance officials observed from the side. A screen in the center showed data logs from the underground facility, everything Mason and Kaylura had risked their lives to send. The screen paused on one image, a Vicari child strapped to a machine. The room fell quiet. No one spoke for a long time. Then a human ambassador said, "How many more places like this exist?" No one answered. But Kaylura, watching from a small window, knew the answer. Too many. Later that night, she returned to Mason's room. He was awake, sitting up this time. His voice was a little stronger. "How's the universe?" he asked. Confused, she said. Angry. Trying to decide what comes next. "What about us?" She sat beside him. "That depends." "On what?" "On where we want to go." Mason leaned back. "I used to think I'd die with a gun in my hand. Somewhere in a place no one remembered." "Me too," she said. He looked at her, but we didn't. "No," she smiled. "We didn't. So now what?" Kaylura looked out the window. Stars floated by, soft and silent. "We build something new," she said. A few days later, they stood at the edge of a large platform. The ship had docked at a floating station, where Alliance teams worked on rebuilding peace talks. Kaylura and Mason stood side by side as a crowd gathered. Journalists, soldiers, civilians, and survivors. Kaylura stepped forward. Her voice was calm, clear. "My name is Kaylura. I was trained to fight, to destroy, to see humans as the enemy." The room listened. But I was wrong, because one human saved my life. Not just with medicine, not with weapons, but with something stronger, kindness. She looked at Mason. He gave a small nod. "We are not monsters, not humans, not Vicari, just broken people trying to survive, and maybe trying to heal." The room was silent. Then someone clapped. Slow, then more. And soon, the whole room was standing. Not for war, but for peace. Later, Kaylura sat with Mason on a quiet bench near the garden deck. Yes, the station had a garden. Real plants. Quiet air. No sounds of war. Mason held a datapad in his lap. They want me to speak at another event, he said. You too. Keelara smirked. Since when did we become heroes? Since we stopped running. She leaned her head back, eyes closed. You still hear them? She asked. The whispers. Yes. He paused. Sometimes. In dreams. Me too. They were quiet again. But it was a good silence. Warm. Peaceful. As the stars turned above them, Mason finally said what he had wanted to say for days. Keelara. She turned. When I whispered to you that day, in the ruins, I didn't know if you'd hear me, or if you'd kill me. She smiled. I almost did. But I said, you're not alone. And now I know. Neither am I. Keelara reached over and took his hand. You never were. They sat like that, fingers entwined, under a sky that finally felt safe. Not perfect. Not easy. But safe. And together, they faced whatever would come next. Not as enemies. Not as survivors. But as something new. The end.